Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And while I normally don't do this program by myself, at least for right now, it'll be me and you. We will be talking and conversating about the news of the day, the news of the weekend, trying to put onto it a little bit of spin. And I know some of you wonder, it's like, okay, well, Craig, why do you, we know you're conservative. We know you talk guns. Why don't you either just talk guns or just talk conservative news? And I hate to say this, but I like both. I like talking about news. I like talking about, in particular, the Second Amendment. The reason why I think I want to do this is because it's a little hard to come up with like 4 or 5 stories on a daily basis to talk about when it comes to gun rights. I hate to say this, but it is. I mean, we could come up with 1, maybe 2, but like on a daily basis, coming up with 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 stories to talk about is a little hard to do. But I also think that the Second Amendment is an important enough item that it needs to be discussed, and you need to work in every conservative, in my opinion. Once again, and my opinion is like everybody else's, although I think mine's better. I think that it's something that ought to be discussed on the regular because it is, of all of our civil liberties, it is the one that has been under attack the longest, and the one in which they are most blatantly going after us. And by the way, it does happen to be the one right that protects all others. So therefore, I believe it's very, very important for us to discuss, debate, conversate as they continue to attack it. Because trust me, once they are successful in taking away our right to keep and bear arms, the others, or once, if I say once they are, if they are able, I guarantee you that the rest of them will fall relatively quickly and unceremoniously. So it's important that we stand up and that we fight for our fundamental right to keep and bear arms. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be discussing today. How about that? Let's see. We're going to go ahead. We're going to start off. We're going to talk about a man who was released by police who punched a 9-year-old girl at Grand Central Station. We're going to talk about Biden paying sanctuary cities and NGOs $300 million to resettle immigrants who are coming, illegal immigrants who are coming to the United States. We're going to talk about FPC, and we're going to talk about their suit against the state of California. They love suing the state of California over non-resident carry ban. And then we've got Planned Parenthood hiding their role when it comes to the transgender agenda or providing gender-affirming care by way of medication to kids. So those are going to be the topics that we're going to be covering today. But before we get into those topics, we're going to take a quick second, and we're going to take a quick second, and we are going to go over. We're going to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. That are what we're going to do right there. Is give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries. If you are looking to either do a brand new build, you're looking to build a rifle or a firearm from scratch, or maybe you're looking to rebuild your current firearm, I can think of no better place for you to go than Hitman Industries. You'll find them at hitmanindustries.net. They have rifle and pistol length barrels available for you today. And if you are a first responder and you've never bought from them before, then you can get a first responder discount. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. You can check them out today at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, join CRA. And then we've got Hog Holsters that can be found at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. The best in concealed carry and tactical holsters on the market. All you got to do is go to hogholsters.com. Make sure you use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word. Just like it is up there, you will get a discount on The Rundown. And finally, the best in tactical gear that is available. Whether you're talking cold weather, warm weather, whether you're talking hats, you're talking boots, you're talking clothing, or you're talking backpacks, whatever it is, they're all things tactical except the gun, you can find at uscombatgear.com. Veteran owned and operated, fast shipping, great selection, and great prices. Check them out today. Once again, uscombatgear.com. Okay, let's now get into today's stories. And we're going to start over here. Well, once again, with the man who was released from jail. Now, let me just give you. Well, you know what, let me read the story for you, and this is going to really piss you off. Okay, if it doesn't piss you off, if it doesn't put a fire underneath you, well, then your wood is wet. We'll put it that way. It says here, Brute, who slugged a little girl, a 9-year-old girl in Grand Central Station, was free after another attack earlier. It says here, a cowardly brute is facing assault charges after police said he slugged a 9-year-old girl at Grand Central Terminal in an unprovoked attack on Saturday. Jean Carlos Zarzuela, 30, who was free without bail despite allegedly punching an elderly woman earlier this month, was hauled out of a Manhattan precinct in handcuffs Sunday to face a court arraignment in the latest shocking attack, according to MTA police. Zarzula is accused of approaching a little girl, a Bronx resident, around 11:50 a.m. inside the historic terminal and punching her without warning, cops said. The little girl was left dizzy and in pain and was taken to NYU Langone Tisch Hospital, sources said. Zarzula, who initially fled the scene, is already facing assault charges for allegedly punching an elderly woman in the head on April 4th, according to court records. He was arraigned on assault, reckless endangerment, and arrest charges in the case, but released without bail by Manhattan Judge Lori Peterson, records show. He is still on the streets when he was still on the streets when he punched the little girl at Grand Central Station and was back in custody on Sunday. Manhattan District Attorney's Office said Sunday that Zarzula was awaiting arraignment. Peterson made headlines in 2020 when she released an accused looter who smashed an NYPD cop on the head with a glass bong, the Post reported at the time. So what we've got here is, this is what you're calling like bail reform. So in other words, because in places like New York, what they're supposed to do, what they say they're supposed to do is they're supposed to determine what is the risk that this person is a danger to the community, a danger to society, a danger to themselves, and then they're supposed to assess that and then determine whether or not a person should be released or not, instead of having them released, for example, on bail. Well, what you have some of these judges basically doing is you come before the court, no matter how violent your case is, sorry. Now, this is a judge who had already released somebody who assaulted an officer, who hit an officer over the head with a bong, okay? Then turns around and releases someone who punched an elderly woman in the face. I don't care if it's an elderly woman, just randomly, for no reason at all, punched a woman in the face. This individual was released on their own recognizance, only to turn around and punch a little girl in the face. Now, I know you're asking yourself, well, why would you expect that he would do that? Why would you expect that he would punch an old woman in the face? Because he could. When we have talked about this ad nauseum on this show, once you remove consequences for bad actions, for bad actors, there's a certain percentage of them who are going to go and they are going to create havoc and do as much as they can and see how much that they can get away with. To a certain degree, folks, here's the thing, and I get the understanding, and I do hope and pray that we can have some rehabilitative rehabilitation within our correction system. But at a certain point, you need to understand, we lock people up because they are a danger to others. Because they've demonstrated that no matter what happens, they are not willing to play well with others. They are going to do what they can to cause harm to others. They don't care. They're going to do what they want. And if it causes harm to other people, they really don't care. And if you don't do something, if you don't have things in place to keep those people separated from the rest of us, then they are going to cause harm to people. Now, the other problem you're going to have come from this is you're now going to have people who are going to say, you know what, since the system, the criminal justice system, is now not going to protect us, I am now going to have to protect myself. And you already have some people, some of us who've already come to recognize that, which is why we have concealed carry permits. This is why we go and we train and we learn how to utilize our firearms in self-defense. Why we go and we take self-defense classes. Why we learn, how to do martial arts, how to do hand-to-hand combat. We learn to do that because we realize that the system, the criminal justice system, in some places has decided that they are not going to do what needs to be done. They are going to release these criminals back out on the street and provoke them to do even more. And so we now have to be in a position, non-law enforcement, right? People who are not in law enforcement, we now have to do the job of law enforcement because law enforcement either won't or isn't allowed to do their jobs. And that's kind of sad because largely in the criminal justice system, they won't allow them to. I don't understand how this guy doesn't get locked up. I don't understand how he is not thrown under the jail for punching an elderly woman in the face. But evidently, that's not enough. I don't know. Tell me, what do you think? Do you think this guy should have been locked up? Right? Do you think he should have been locked in? Do you think he should have been, even if there was bail, do you think he should have been offered the opportunity to pay bail? I don't know. But under the bail system, if you deemed that under the no bail system, if you deemed that he was a danger to other people, then there's no way that you could release him. That's the problem in this case. You only have one choice. It's either release him or don't release him. Somebody who punched a random stranger in the face has pretty much said, yeah, you can't trust that guy. You just can't trust him. You cannot trust him to not be a danger to others. And hopefully, as judges, whether it's in, places like Los Angeles or California or, in Detroit or Chicago or New York, hopefully they're looking at this instance and they're saying, you know what, even if we have a no bail system, yeah, if there is any chance whatsoever that an individual is going to be a danger just to the people around them, to society around them, there's no way I'm letting them out. Because I'll tell you right now, if you are measuring this based on whether or not they are a danger to others, in most cases, you're going to see a whole lot of people who are going to be locked up and not going to be given the opportunity to be released. See, at least with bail, you can hold something over their head if they offend again. Right? You have something to hold over their head. But in a no bail system, you have nothing to hold over their head. Absolutely nothing, except getting arrested again. And you see the consequences of it. It does not take a rocket scientist to figure this out. It does, however, evidently, you cannot be a liberal and have it actually work. Because, well, liberals don't see it. By the way, which reminds me, so just the other day I saw a study that supposedly released that said that, greater intelligence people with greater intelligence generally tend to be more left-leaning. And I said, yeah, I kind of already knew that. And here's the reason why. It's not so much people who are more intelligent. It's people who are intelligent and lack wisdom, because when you consider the amount of brain power and mental machinations the number of mental hoops that you have to jump through in order to make liberalism make sense, you almost have to be a genius. And when I say a genius, I mean educated into imbecility, as many of those who attend our finer institutions of higher learning are. And I am a college graduate, but I didn't go to the Ivy League, so I consider myself safe from that description. And that leads us to the smart, brilliant idea of Joe Biden to actually pay sanctuary cities and non-governmental organizations to basically transport and move and basically resettle illegal immigrants across the country. And that's what's happening right now, according to Breitbart News. It says here, several sanctuary cities and non-governmental organizations are expected to secure $300 million in American taxpayer dollars for resettling migrants across the United States on behalf of President Joe Biden's administration. On Friday, the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas announced that certain cities and NGOs will soon receive $300 million worth of federal grants via the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, their Shelter and Services Program. The Biden administration created SSP funding by Congress to dish out taxpayer money to cities and NGOs helping resettle migrants after they are released into the nation's interior from the southern border. In his announcement, Mayorkas said about $275 million will soon be distributed to cities and NGOs, while the remaining $25 million will be given out towards the end of the year. Another nearly $341 million will be awarded to SSP's through SSP's competitive grants. The taxpayer funds are only the latest to be allocated to cities and NGOs resettling migrants for the Biden administration. Last year alone, DHS provided cities and NGOs more than $780 million in funds via SSP and emergency food and shelter programs, a program that started in the late 80s meant to help homeless Americans. So for those of you who think that, they're coming here, they're taking jobs that people won't take, you're saying that, it doesn't cost America anything. I would just tell you that you are wrong. And keep in mind, $780 million last year, and it wasn't even a drop in the bucket. It did nothing to handle or fix any of the problems that we're dealing with, because you've got about over 200,000 of these individuals streaming across our southern border. And mind you, listen to the language in this article, because what they're saying is once they come across, once they're apprehended, they basically are just released into the United States. And in many cases, given bus tickets, plane tickets, are often flown to wherever they want to go in the country. And that's why you have people now in places like Chicago, places like Detroit, places like San Diego, places like New York, who are protesting because that's where they're going. They're going there because these are sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, who are saying, we're going to give you everything that you need. We're going to give you free health care. We're going to give you, like California, we're going to give you free education, like, most of the United States. We're going to give you, debit cards, right, with about $1,200 to $1,700 a month, New York City. And, we're basically going to take care of you. And you wonder why they keep coming. I mean, think about it. You've already told them, if you come to the border, we're going to let you in, right? Once you're in, we're going to not only let you stay here for years before you finally get a court date, but we're going to hook you up too. We're going to get you a phone. We're going to get you some money. We're going to get you a place to live. We're going to get you education. We're going to get you free health care. Now, mind you, in places like California, where we've seen the greatest surge in illegal immigrants coming through our southern border, we already have a third of the nation's homeless people. We're already we already have an affordability problem when it comes to a place to live where people can't afford to live. And yet we're taking in people who not only are coming here with nothing, but also, dealing with they're now going to be competing for, the high paying fast food jobs now. Anyway, it is a mess. It is a hot mess. And the reason why we're dealing with the things that we're dealing with, let's just say it's because we say we have a closed border, but I think you and I know we don't have a closed border. And until we step up and we do something to change that, like, I don't know, elect Donald Trump as president, we're going to continue to have an open border. And the one thing is that it's not, and by the way, it's not just about the policies. It's about what you say. Because when Donald Trump was president last time, we saw the number of people crossing our southern border drop back to we're talking, it decreased to record numbers, to what it was before, I think it was Clinton. I mean, it was just the numbers were drastically low. So people can't say, well, what's Trump going to do? Well, first of all, let me clarify. First thing he's going to do is reinstitute the programs that Joe Biden took away. When Joe Biden says he can't do anything, he's lying. All he has to do is undo what he did when he became president, because he undermined all of the programs that we had in place, all the executive orders that Donald Trump had in place. He got rid of them, and now we're dealing with what we're dealing with. Not saying, just saying. Anyway, if we want to see our border back under control, time to elect Donald Trump. I mean, pretty much I think most Republicans would be able to do it, but Donald Trump, we know that he can do it because he did do it. Simple enough. All right, next up, FPC sues the state of California over non-resident carry ban. Now, you know that in when it comes to concealed carry, we have this thing called reciprocity, right? That is where one state will recognize another state's concealed carry permit, and therefore, if you have a concealed carry permit in that state, it will allow you to then carry in whatever state you're going to. So, for example, I have a concealed carry permit for Utah. That concealed carry permit in Utah allows me to carry in 30 other states, right? Because as long as I have that concealed carry permit, it says that I passed laws that they're comfortable with. And so because other states recognize Utah's permit, they because of reciprocity, they also then recognize Utah's permit and allows you to carry in multiple states without having to go to all 30 of those states or 33 of those states and get permits. Well, California is one of the few states in the country that recognizes no one else's permit. They don't have reciprocity with anybody, which basically means that if you are not a California resident, there's no way for you to legally, unless you're law enforcement. There's no way unless you're law enforcement. There's no way for you to legally carry concealed in the state of California anywhere. Let alone in all the places that are restricted, you're not allowed to carry anywhere. Well, the Firearms Policy Coalition, our good friends over there at FPC, they're suing the state of California, and they are very experienced at suing the state of California. You can tell because you look at where's their case at? San Diego. Anyway, it says here, today, the Firearms Policy Coalition, FPC, announced the filing of a new lawsuit challenging California's ban on firearm carry by non-residents. The complaint in Hoffman v. Bonta can be viewed at fpclegal.org. Quote, this ban is unconstitutional. Individuals like plaintiffs do not lose protection of their rights under the First Amendment's speech or religion clause when they cross state lines, nor do they lose their protections under the Fourth Amendment's prohibition on unreasonable searches and seizures. They likewise do not surrender their Second Amendment protection rights when they travel outside of their home state, end quote, the plaintiffs say in the complaint. Quote, the right to bear arms doesn't end at California's border, said Brandon Combs, founder and president of FPC. We look forward to eliminating this unconstitutional ban and restoring liberty in the Golden State. That is an excellent point. The fact is you don't lose any other rights except the right to keep and bear arms. Now we know that the right to bear arms is a fundamental right. The right to own or possess a firearm outside of your home is a fundamental right. Well, just because you've gone from Nevada to California doesn't mean you lose your rights. And that is going to start to change. You're going to have to start to see states like California offer concealed carry. At the very least, they're going to have to offer concealed carry permits to out-of-staters. That's one thing you're probably going to have to see. You may see them start to offer reciprocity to states. Now, this may be one thing. They may offer reciprocity to states that have permitting requirements about like what they have in the state of California. That could be the case. Who knows what it's going to look like, but rest assured, they're going to lose. The state of California is going to lose this case. They're going to fight it, probably fight it all the way to the Supreme Court, but they are going to, in fact, lose this case. And they are going to have to find a way to allow those who are not residents of California to be able to carry in the state of California. And anyway, I'm looking forward to that. I have a concealed carry permit here in the state of California, so I get to carry in California. But I want to make sure that we have the gun rights policy conference coming to the state of California in September. It'd be really nice if my friends from other states would be able to carry here in the state of California legally. But who knows? I doubt it'll be. I doubt that it will be addressed by then. But I think people should want to feel safe or want to be able to be safe, especially since they know that there are in many jurisdictions here in the state of California, law enforcement is not allowed to do their jobs. That is sad. I know you don't want to hear that. A lot of y'all don't want to hear that, but it is in fact the case. Okie dokie. Let's see. What do we have next here? Next in line, Planned Parenthood. Now, Planned Parenthood is supposed to be about family planning, right? Helping people plan to be parents, but we know that they're really an abortion mill. But one of the things that they've also done is they've gotten into the highly lucrative gender-affirming care business. And as a result, the Missouri Attorney General has been investigating Planned Parenthood there in Missouri. And they seem to be going out of their way to try and hide their role when it comes to transing the kids. And it says here, Planned Parenthood's stonewalling a probe into peddling puberty blockers to minors, state AG. It says here, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey is now permitted to access patient documents from Planned Parenthood that could potentially expose whether the clinic has offered puberty blockers or transgender surgeries to children. The St. Louis Circuit Judge Michael Stetzler determined last week that Missouri's Merchandising Practices Act allows Bailey to obtain patient documents because they do not fall under Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or otherwise known as HIPAA, protections, otherwise known as the federal law protecting patient privacy. Bailey told Fox News Digital that the court's ruling is a huge win in a series of investigations into how transgender health clinics have offered services to minors. However, all of the clinics Bailey has won against in court, of all of them, only one has handed over documents. Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City. The other clinic, a Planned Parenthood in Great Plains, has filed an appeal to keep documents private. The Planned Parenthood in St. Louis, which the judge has ordered to hand over the files to the Attorney General, has yet to send the patient documents. And here's the reason why they don't want to send it, folks, because number one, you've seen that there's been now 2 European countries. One has actually done a study. 2 have actually had their national organizations that administer and deal with health has determined that they will no longer offer gender-affirming care, and specifically I mean medication and surgeries to minor use, to children, unless it's done in a clinical setting. And the reason why is clinical means it's a clinical trial, so they're trying to study it. Because what they're finding is they hadn't studied it. There were no studies determining that, number one, that this stuff worked, that it addressed the issues of suicidal ideation. No studies that proved that it helped. No studies to prove that it didn't hurt. Nothing dealing with the medical, the medical complications or anything, right? But the data that they're getting back now shows, and once again, this is not studied. This is just by them randomly just saying, yeah, y'all can have it. The data now shows that, it's actually not helping. It's not reducing suicidal ideation. It's not addressing mental health issues. Other issues are still remaining. So it's not helping. And not only is it not helping, but it is in fact hurting. Osteoporosis, permanent sterilization, other physical ailments just from the medication, not including things like, not including the mastectomies, permanently removing the healthy breast tissue, or castration, and then creation. And anyway, that was a vaginoplasty, which is actually just basically creating an open womb. it's actually harming people. Now the data shows that it's actually harming people. So, like in Great Britain, nope, not doing it. No more. They're done. They're not offering anymore. I think Finland or Sweden, they're not offering anymore. 7 different nations have now said, yep, not doing it anymore. But we here in the United States are still doing it. And we have groups like Planned Parenthood who tout that they're there for women's health, right? They're promoting health, actually, once again, doing harm to children. We already know that their big money maker is killing babies in the womb. Killing babies is their number one money maker. And now, and then right on the heels of that, they're trying to, they're doing harm to our children. Once again, with this care that now we now know not only doesn't help, but actually hurts, actually causes harm to children. And now they're trying to cover it up. And that's really what's going on there. They're literally trying to cover up their involvement in this whole thing because they know it ain't right. Anyway, that now brings us to our parting shots. Our parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. All right, we're going to start off here. Our first one. You know that there was just a reauthorization of the, they're working on a reauthorization of part of the FISA Act, right? Dealing with surveillance, in particular dealing with surveillance of Americans. Congress actually has passed something according to the Babylon Bee. And what they passed, it says here, Congress passes bill allowing surveillance on every American except those who bring cocaine into the White House. I'm not even going to begin to guess who they are referring to there. Sounds like, I think it rhymes with Hunter Biden, though, just in case. Anyway, next, also from the Babylon Bee, you might recall that Iran just did a major strike against Israel. They fired 300 rockets into Israel, and 99% of them all got shot down. Between America, between the U.S. and between Israel, we were able to shoot down like 99% of them. And needless to say, the American apologists in Congress, they stood up real quick. And you had Rashida Tlaib, who in my opinion should be removed from Congress because she is about as anti-American as you can get. Rashida Tlaib condemned violence against innocent Iranian missiles. Because, they weren't really doing anything. They were just minding their own business, flying into Israel. And, all of a sudden they were just shot down by those racist Israelis. I think it's genocide against missiles is what they're going to accuse them of next. Would not surprise me one bit. All right, and then finally, that Iran would not be able to do all this. They would not have been able to fund the terrorists who came into Israel on October 7th. They would not be able to fund the pirates that are attacking shipping there in the Middle East. None of these countries, none of these proxies would be able to do a darn thing if it weren't for the funding that comes from Iran. And needless to say, the Biden administration they've got to chip in there a little bit. Although they're trying to make sure it doesn't happen because they decided to, it says here, Biden retaliates against Iran by attaching a note to pallet of cash that says, please don't use for terrorism. Because we all know, just like our gun-free school zone signs, we all know how effective a sign can be, according to the left. No? You guys don't think that'll work? Raise your hand if you think it won't work. All right, good stuff. All right, folks. Well, hey, that brings us to the end of our program. But before we go, we got to give another quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries, rifle and pistol length barrels available for you today. Just check them out at hitmanindustries.net. We got the California Republican Assembly, otherwise referred to as the conscience of the Republican Party by former President Ronald Reagan. Check them out today. Then you've got Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. And then you've got uscombatgear.com, the place to get all your cool tactical gear. And with that, we're done for today, and we'll be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. Oh, hopefully the Mike Meister, the Mike Man, will be with us tomorrow. But if not, hey, you know what? We always have a good time. So y'all take care. We will see you tomorrow.